Okay, what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel, and today we are going to do our own top 100 prospects. MLB Pipeline, Baseball America, everybody, has released their top 100 prospect list. So today, I'm going to be giving you guys my top 100 prospects in baseball. That is including the new 2022 MLB draftees, along with and the trade deadline is done, the draft's done. So we're going to go ahead and get into it with these top 100 prospects. We're going to be starting 1 to 100. So let's go ahead and start here with the number one prospect in baseball. There's a big conversation. It seems like everybody kind of has a little bit different of an opinion, but a lot of the guys with that could be the number one prospect are really close to the majors. Most of them are. The best prospect in baseball, according to me, is Corbin Carroll, outfielder from the Arizona Diamondbacks. Corbin Carroll is just a great player. This year, he's hitting .315 with 22 home runs and 58 RBIs and 337 at-bats, 85 runs, 106 hits. He was a 2019 first-round pick, 16th overall out of Lakeside High School in Seattle, Washington. And this year, he's been pretty good. His career's been a little bit injury-prone. Prior to this, he really didn't get a full season in 2021. Nobody got a season in 2020. And in 2019, after he played, he got a decent kind of season. But the thing is, with Corbin Carroll, he's always had a good eye at the plate, and the power hasn't totally been there. But the power is developing this year, and it's a really nice sight to see, especially if you're an Arizona Diamondbacks fan. I mean, Corbin Carroll already is the top 50 prospect. And the thing also with Corbin Carroll is that he's not just totally a power hitter. He walks a lot. He steals bases. And when you talk about a five-tool player, that's Corbin Carroll. He's a five-tool player. And when we finally see him in a full season this year, he's making waves through the minor league organization. He started in Double-A, where he played 58 games and dominated. And in 26 games in Reno, he's been pretty good. And I'm wondering when the major league debut is. I mean, if you're Arizona, September 1st is coming up, so maybe they, go ahead and give him a chance in September, and he'll play for about a month. And I don't think his rookie eligibility will be gone or anything. But Corbin Carroll's the best prospect in baseball. He's all around five tools. He's got it all. Next up at number 2 is Gunnar Henderson of the Baltimore Orioles. Gunnar Henderson is also a very good player. And now I don't think he'll be called up this year. But apparently they want to have him make some starts at first base, and he's obviously a shortstop / third baseman, usually more of a shortstop. But this dude has also been moving quickly through their system. He was a second-round pick back in 2019 out of Morgan High School in Alabama. And this dude, he really was good last year, but he's gotten even better this year. He does also walk quite a bit. He started in Double-A as well, spent 47 games there, was dominant there. He walked more than he struck out, which is a really nice thing to see. Overall 1,000 OPS, great there. And since coming to Triple-A, he's been really, really good as well. Gunnar Henderson's one of the best prospects in baseball. Some will say he's number 1. I personally think he's probably number 2. But this dude is really, really good, and to get him in the second round like the Baltimore Orioles managed to do, they did exceptional with that pick. Next up, number 3 is the biggest riser of this year in the minor leagues. That's Jackson Chourio, the center fielder, second baseman, shortstop for the Milwaukee Brewers organization. He is only 18 years old, and yes, he is playing in High A, Wisconsin. This dude this year, .310 batting average, 16 home runs, 59 RBIs, and like I said, he's only 18 playing in High A ball, and some teams might have him in Double-A. The thing is, he kind of can strike out quite a bit. He's not a guy that's going to walk an absolute ton. 27 walks to 96 strikeouts this year in 82 games. I don't think that's horrible at all, but the thing is with Jackson Chourio, he can play very many different positions. And he was absolutely dominant, probably the best player in all of the minors while being in Low A with Carolina. And then he's been promoted to High A, Wisconsin, and he's still been very, very good. He seems to be walking a little more there, considering he has accumulated almost half the walks in a third of the games there. This is a guy that came in last year and it did really well, and Chourio in his first full season is making his impact for sure. Next up at number 4 is Jordan Walker, the third baseman for the St. Louis Cardinals. And the Cardinals have one of the best farm systems, if not the best farm system in baseball. He was their 21st overall pick in the first round in the 2020 draft out of Georgia. And this dude has been really, really awesome since coming up. And I mean, he's only 20 and in Double-A. And he's not just this average Double-A player that you might think. He is dominating Double-A. He spent all year in Double-A this year, hitting 15 home runs, 54 RBIs, and a 311 batting average. It seems a lot now these days that these guys that are, taller and that are really built out of high school are really starting to be the guys to look for in the draft, especially if you can get them towards the later rounds or later in the first round, because Jordan Walker is just an awesome player. I mean, there's no and if or buts about it. He could probably be in AAA, if not the major leagues for most teams. I think he'll stay in Double-A for the rest of the year for the Cardinals. I'm sure, of course, they have big, big hopes for him. It's just that, he's 20 years old and you don't want to push him too far. Next up at number 5, I am going to go ahead and head to the New York Mets and Francisco Alvarez. Now, MLB Pipeline now has Francisco Alvarez as their number 1 prospect with Riley Green graduating. But, I'm not totally there with Francisco Alvarez. I think that catchers, and you've seen this kind of in the draft, especially last year in 2022, I think catchers, the value of them are starting to go down as a whole, and that's not anything on Francisco Alvarez. It's just I think there's 4 better prospects than him right now. This year he's hit 23 home runs, 65 RBIs, and a 244 batting average. And, I kind of question his defense a little bit, but I still think it's going to be fine. And if nothing else, he's going to be a 30 or 40 hit home run hitting DH. And that's what the Mets fans want him to be called up and do. And, the thing is, he's been really good. It's just, I think that they've shown with their promotion to AAA, even though he was performing really well in Double-A. And if I was in the Mets shoes, I probably would have promoted him to AAA as well. He's hitting 165 with 5 home runs and 18 RBIs there in 30 games. He's not been very good. And when you are already not good at another level, you're probably just being pushed a little bit too much. And that's nothing to say that Francisco Alvarez isn't a great player. It's just the dude's 20 years old. I mean, relax a little bit. A lot of dudes his age are still in college, are still sophomores in college. And the thing is, you can't really push him too far. And maybe the Mets have done that by putting him in AAA. I probably would have done the same thing, but he's struggling a little bit. He needs a little bit of time before being called up. Next up at number 6 is Grayson Rodriguez of the Baltimore Orioles, the second Baltimore Oriole on this list already. Now, Grayson Rodriguez is not going to be pitching for the rest of the year. He's had an injury, but we all know how good Grayson Rodriguez is. He was the 11th overall pick out of Central Heights High School in Texas, and this dude has been straight up awesome when he's pitched, posting a 24-8 record with a 2.35 ERA in 63 games, 62 started, and 272 innings in the minor leagues so far in his career. This year so far in 2022, before the injury, he was 5-1 with a 2.09 ERA. Looked like he could definitely be called up. This is not a guy that has a big walk problem either. 14 walks to 80 strikeouts in 2022 with Norfolk. This is the best pitching prospect in baseball, and I know Eury, Perez, Gavin Williams, Andrew Painter are, coming up closer, but still, he's the guy as far as pitching right now in the minors. Next up at number 7, I'm going to go with Diego Cartaya, the catcher from the Los Angeles Dodgers. Diego Cartaya is really flying up prospect rankings, and you can't blame them. The dude's 20 playing in high A, if that kind of shows you a little bit about what I was talking with Francisco Alvarez. Same age. He's playing in high A. Francisco Alvarez is in AAA. This year, he's hitting 268 with 21 home runs and 62 RBIs. I mean, just another great catcher for the Dodgers. The Dodgers have so many great guys, and they probably have the best farm system in baseball. With how he's been this year and between low A and high A, to be honest, I'm confused why they started him in low A in 2022. Absolutely made no sense to me. I would have started him in high A, then he probably, if he performed like he still is now, I would probably bump him up to Double A. Just with how good he's doing. I mean, there's nothing there's nothing that you can say that there's a reason why he shouldn't be promoted to Double A. Next up at number 8, I am going to go ahead and head to the Boston Red Sox and Marcelo. He was my best player in the 2021 draft, and that's definitely proving to be right because Marcelo Meyer has been very good. He just earned a promotion to High A Greenville with the drive, and this year he's hitting 281 with 11 home runs and 45 RBIs. And you've got to remember, he's 19 years old, guys. So 281 with 11 home runs and 45 RBIs in his first pro season. I mean, he's very good, and I didn't think they would promote him to High A, but they did, and he's not performing too terrible there. 250 average with 2 home runs and 5 RBIs. The thing is, he has just such a patient eye at the plate and such an advanced approach for somebody who's 19 years old. I mean, a really good player. Next up at number 9, I'm going to go with Jordan Lawlar, another shortstop from last year's draft. Jordan Lawlar, this guy has been awesome. And I love what the Arizona Diamondbacks do in the draft. I think they're probably the smartest draft team that there is. They go for tools, they go for upside. And it's a really smart way to draft. And Lawlar is 20 years old now. And this dude's proven to be really, really good. I mean, a 324 batting average, 11 home runs, and 50 RBIs this year. He's stealing a ton of bases. He's walking half as much as he's striking out. I mean, this dude started in low A, dominated there, and he's been pretty dang good at high A too. Jordan Lawlar is the best pick of last year's draft by far. Next up at number 10, I'm going to go with catcher from the Toronto Blue Jays, Gabriel Moreno. Gabriel Moreno, for some people, is like top 5, top 3, top 2. Moreno, the thing is with him is the power numbers aren't really, too exciting for me. And even though there is a bit of upside there, it just, it's not really something that I think is really too big of something to look forward to. I think this guy's just going to be an on-base machine, a guy that walks a lot. He's just going to be an on-base machine, and I'm not saying that is, but that's not a top 3 prospect guy. And people can't say that he's a top 3 prospect guy because he's just simply not. Next up at number 11, I'm going to go with the shortstop for the New York Yankees, Anthony Volpe. Volpe's had a kind of down year this year, I would definitely say. The power's still there, and I think the power's always going to be there with Anthony Volpe, to be honest. He was the 30th overall pick in 2019 out of New Jersey. And Volpe this year, 248 with 16 home runs and 54 RBIs. He steals a lot of bags too, and he walks quite a bit. This dude has a good approach at the plate, and he's a really good hitter. He's the reason, though, why you didn't sign Corey Seager, Trevor Story. He's that guy in their farm system, and he put up an amazing year last year. And I wouldn't say this year has been nearly the same, but he's still a very, very good prospect and somebody the Yankees, if you're a Yankees fan, you should be very excited about. Next up at number 12, I'm going to go with Elly De La Cruz, the shortstop for the Cincinnati Reds. Elly De La Cruz, man, this is a guy that has been sensational this year. I mean, everywhere he goes, he's a great player. And I mean, Elly De La Cruz, 20 years old at Double A. I mean, really, really good. They signed him internationally, and the dude's been raking this year. 305 batting average, 26 home runs, 75 RBIs, 6'5", 200. He is O'Neal Cruz-like, and maybe a better version of O'Neal Cruz. And the thing is, they promoted him to Double A a little bit over halfway through the year, and he's dominating there too. I mean, he might be on the verge of a promotion to AAA if they really want to get aggressive with him because it doesn't seem too much, to be honest, like Double A is a challenge for him. And, he does strike out his fair share, but this dude's an everyday player. And, they've got they're starting to build up a lot of shortstop, third base type players. And Elly De La Cruz is the best of them all. He's the guy you build around in Cincinnati. And he's going to be a big part of where this rebuild goes. Next up at number 13, Eury Perez of the Miami Marlins. And this is the second-ranked pitcher on this list. And Eury Perez, even though people say, he's not having the best year this year or whatever they're saying, is you can say that he's not having that good of a year, but look at his age. He's 19 at AA. That's 4 to 5 years below the normal age for that league. And I know I talk a lot about the age of these players and stuff, but that is a big thing in the minor leagues. And I mean, sure, I'll agree it's not the year it was last year, because the year it was last year was insane. But the dude's still striking out a ton of batters, and it's on pace to strike out more than he did last year. And for as hard as he throws, the thing is he's not walking too many guys either. And opponents average 228 this year. It's not very good for hitters to face Eury Perez. I can tell you that. He's 3-3 this year with a 4.19 ERA. Spent all the year in AA. AA is a challenge, and it's the challenge he needs. You know what I mean? Because we saw last year wasn't much of a challenge for him, but this year is more of a challenge for him, and that's what you want to see success, but you want to see a little bit of challenge as well. When a guy like him proved that he was just too good for that level. Next up is a guy who recently just got traded, and that's Noelvi Marte, who just got traded from the Seattle Mariners to the Cincinnati Reds. And Noelvi Marte is a really great player. He has struggled a bit since being in the Cincinnati Reds organization. He's 20 years old, and this year, 271 batting average, 18 home runs, 61 RBIs. That's been with the Daytona Dragons, which is the high A team for the Reds, and the Everett Aqua Sox, who is the team for the high A team for the Seattle Mariners. Noelvi Marte has put up a really good year. Like I said, 20 years old, and there's a lot to be excited about with him for sure. Obviously, he was a big piece in that Luis Castillo trade. Next up at number 15 is Taj Bradley of the Tampa Bay Rays. And this dude, for being drafted pretty low in the rounds, Taj Bradley is just, another guy of the Rays development. He's their best prospect, and he's one of the best pitching prospects in baseball. They drafted him in the 2018 round 5, 150th overall for the number 15 prospect in baseball out of Redden High School in Stone Mountain, Georgia. This dude, 4-4 with a 2.34 ERA, and the thing is with him, he has the stuff. He's got great stuff, but he's amazing. And I wouldn't be surprised if he makes his major league debut this year. I would kind of be a little surprised because the Rays don't, they're not big on. But I really think that Taj Bradley could make an impact at the major league level this year for the Tampa Bay Rays and help them with a playoff push. I really do think that. Next up at number 16, I'm going to go with Marco Luciano, who's been sidelined a little bit this year by injuries of the San Francisco Giants. Luciano is a guy who's 20 years old as well. And Luciano has been really great in his minor league career. This year hitting 288 and with 10 home runs and 27 RBIs this year. And he's the best prospect that the Giants have by far. The thing is, he's only played 51 games, so he homered essentially once every 5 games, if you kind of look at it that way. This dude's a really good player, and Luciano is going to be the future shortstop of the San Francisco Giants. He's going to be very, very good. It could be up probably 2023, 2024-ish. Next up's Andrew Painter, and this dude is very interesting. And he's one of those guys in the draft that, I don't get everyone right, nor does nobody. But Andrew Painter was one that I got right last year. He is a exceptionally good player. He's got great stuff, and he's got great control, and he has absolutely dominated this year. And even though it says on his MLB page that he's on the development list at High A Jersey Shore, he's actually been promoted to AA at 19 years old. Last year, he pitched 6 innings, walked nobody, 12 strikeouts, and 4 starts with the Florida Complex League. They started him off at A-ball this year, where he went 1-1 with a 1.40 ERA and 9 starts, 16 walks to 69 strikeouts in just 38.2 innings. Insanity. And for a guy that has this stuff that can probably get up to 100, to be honest. And he started 8 games with Jersey Shore, and yes, he got a complete game. I'm pretty sure it was a 7-inning game, though. 3-0 with a 0.98 ERA and 8 starts. 7 walks to 49 strikeouts in 36 innings. I mean, this dude's insane. And Mick Amell, who's the second best prospect in the Phillies organization, just got promoted to Double-A as well. Andrew Painter is an insanely good player. Next up, Daniel Espino. Daniel Espino has not pitched very much this year. He's on the 7-day injured list in the minors right now with Double-A Akron in the Cleveland farm system. He's 21 years old. He was their first-round pick out of Georgia Premier High School in Statesboro, Georgia, which has been a place for pitchers. Last year, 3-8 with a 3.73 ERA. He doesn't walk a lot of guys, which is a pretty good thing. I think he was on the track to maybe make his major league debut this year if it wasn't for the injury, where he started 4 games in Akron, 2.45 ERA, 18 games, 35 strikeouts, and only 4 walks. This dude was definitely in the running to possibly get to the majors this year, but it's definitely not going to happen now. But one guy who is in the majors is Brett Baty of the New York Mets. Brett Baty, the first at-bat he has in the major leagues, a home run. This dude has been very good since they drafted him. I think they drafted him in they drafted him in the first round of the 2019 draft out of Lake Travis High School in Austin, Texas. Dude's hitting 300 in the majors and just 10 at-bats. But let's look more to his minor league stats. He spent most of the year in Double-A, 89 games, where he had 19 home runs, 59 RBIs, a 312 batting average. They only needed to see him for 6 games in Double-A or Triple-A, 364 batting average. Basically, he just about got called up straight from Double-A. Baty is the future third baseman of the Mets. That's why they didn't trade for Chris Bryant or anything like that. They knew Brett Baty was going to be that guy. Next up at number 20, Zach Veen of the Colorado Rockies. Zach Veen probably has been, to me, one of the smarter picks of the recent years. Zach Veen is 20 years old out of Port Orange, Florida, where they drafted him 9th overall out of Spruce Creek High School. This year he's hit 262 with 11 home runs and 61 RBIs, 52 stolen bases. This dude is also a 5-tool player. A lot of these guys are. This dude's definitely a 5-tool player. He's only got caught stealing 6 times, too. 357 on-base percentage, a 417 slugging, a 774 OPS. This dude's been really good in 102 games. He just got promoted to Double-A Hartford, which he definitely deserves. He's been a great player. Next up at number 21 is Robert Hassel, outfielder for the Washington Nationals. Of course, he was a big part of the trade that brought Juan Soto to San Diego. And he was a big piece that they got back, and he was drafted just 1 pick before Zach Veen. He's 21 years old out of Franklin, Tennessee. And Robert Hassel, 10 home runs this year, 59 RBIs, and a 278 batting average. And the exciting thing with Robert Hassel is that the power is starting to come along. It really is. It's starting to come along, and that's exciting. They actually just promoted him to their Double-A affiliate. He spent a little bit of time, 10 games, in Wilmington, their high A team, and they ended up assigning him to Double-A Harrisburg, which is a definitely deserved promotion. This dude's going pretty quickly through the minors. At number 22, Kyle Harrison of the San Francisco Giants. Kyle Harrison's a lefty, and Kyle Harrison, really been a steal of a pick. I mean, the Giants, they've got some really, really good players, and they don't really have great depth, I'll say that, in their farm system, but they definitely do have some really good top-tier guys. And this dude's 21. He was drafted in the 3rd round out of De La Salle high school in California in the third round in the 2020 draft. And there has been a lot of guys that have been overlooked in that 2020 draft, and Kyle Harrison's been one of them. Evan Carter's been one of them. Ricky Tiedemann for the Blue Jays has been one of them. This year he's been 4-3 with a 2.24 ERA and 20 games started, 92 innings. The thing is, he needs to be promoted to AAA. I mean, this dude's just been too good. He's got promoted to AA Richmond. He's been great there. You know, it doesn't seem like it's too much of a challenge for him. I think he needs to go to AAA. He made the Futures game. This dude is really trending into the right direction as a player. Next up at number 23 is Ezequiel Tarver of the Colorado Rockies. Ezequiel Tarver is a guy that has flown up boards this year. And he's had some good years in the past, but this year is just really, really, really exceptional for Ezequiel Tarver. Ezequiel Tarver is 21 years old, and this year in AA, he's hit .318 with 13 home runs and 47 RBIs. Currently, he's on the 7-day injured list. I'm not exactly sure why he is on there, but he's been on there since July 3rd. If that attests to how good he's been in just 66 games. That's what he did in 66 games. I mean, he was on track to possibly make a major league debut this year if it wasn't for this injury. I'm not sure exactly what the injury is, but it sucks to see him with an injury. Next up is Pete Crow Armstrong, which, you know, they traded him. The Mets traded him last year. They were the team that originally drafted him out of Harvard Westlake High School in Sherman Oaks, California. Anytime you see a guy from there, you might want to look out for this guy. You might want to, you know, if you're a card investor, you might want to do that. Whatever. But if somebody comes from Harvard Westlake High School, chances are he's going to be a really good player, and that's what's happened. 302 batting average, 15 home runs, 50 RBIs. I didn't think that the power would develop this quickly, but it has. And this dude is scary good. He kind of had some injuries in his first real season. He played 6 games last year, 417 batting average. You know, it's nothing much. But he's really shown 5-tool potential this year, and he's already in high A at just 20 years old. And a lot of teams might already have him in AA because he's been performing really well at high A too. You know, they started him at low A, and it was just too easy for him. I mean, you know, there's just certain players that, you know, a lot of teams don't promote their players until later in the season. But there are some players, you know, that they just force your hand. You've got to promote them. Next up at number 25 is Josh Young. And this dude has just came back from injury, and he's been exceptional. And this is not based on these 10 or 15 games since he's been back. Is the dude's hit wherever he goes. Wherever he goes, he hits. And he's never shown a lack of hitting yet. 8th overall pick out of Texas Tech. And dude, this year, just 62 at-bats, 8 home runs, 22 RBIs, and 339 batting average, and that's in 17 games. So basically, he's homered once every 2 games, if you look at that. In 2021, 326 batting average, 19 home runs, 61 RBIs, and I mean, you know, this dude's been insane. Last year, 43 games in Frisco AA for the Rangers. He dominated. Went up to AAA. He dominated. He got a pretty good sample of what AAA was going to be like last year. So that's why if a guy like Josh Young is promoted pretty quickly, it's not just because based off these 9 games this year where he has been phenomenal. I'll say that. He has been acting like the best prospect in baseball. And the power's starting to come around. I'll say that. But if he gets promoted pretty quickly, I wouldn't be surprised. You know, he's already seen 44 games at the AAA level. I wouldn't be surprised if a guy like Josh Young is promoted rather quickly. Now, we haven't seen a first-round draft pick yet, and we are going to go ahead and do that with Jackson Holliday, who is number 26 in the prospect rankings. For me, he was the first overall pick in the 2022 draft. I always thought that it was Holliday, then it was Drew Jones for me. He got his first professional home run, and he has a chance to be in low A by the end of the year. But Jackson Holliday has said that his goal is to be in the major leagues in 2 years or less. And that's really, really a big goal because if you're thinking about this, he has a goal to be in the major leagues at 20 years old. And, Jackson Holliday, he has a beautiful left-handed swing. He really came onto the scene with how good he did in his high school season at Stillwater High School in Oklahoma. Dude hit 685. I mean, just ridiculous numbers. And, he's insane. He's the best prospect that there was in the 2022 draft. But right behind him, I'm going to go with Drew Jones, the outfielder from for the Arizona Diamondbacks. And Drew Jones is, the dude had a shoulder injury, a freak shoulder injury that's going to basically make him out for the rest of this year. He's done for this year. And, this dude has a swing kind of like Ronald Acuna if you look at it in a way. But, he's the son of Andrew Jones. This dude's out of West Lane High School in Georgia. Unfortunately, he's going to miss the season. But, at the end of the day, he probably wasn't going to get too much of time in rookie ball anyways. And a lot of guys don't even really play this season after they're drafted anyways. So, yeah. Next up at number 28, I'm going to look. The next guy is going to be Curtis Mead, third baseman, second baseman, outfielder. This is kind of a do-it-all, play utility guy, Curtis Mead. But it doesn't mean that he's just an average player because he plays everywhere. The Rays like versatility, and Curtis Mead provides a lot of versatility for them. And, Curtis Mead has been a great player. He's 21 years old in AAA. He's hitting .293 this year with 13 home runs and 50 RBIs. I mean, the dude can play everywhere, and there's a lot of things to be excited about. They signed him out of South Australia. I mean, dude's been insane ever since he's been in the Tampa Bay Rays organization. Another product of the Tampa Bay Rays just been great developing-wise. And another product of that's been Ricky Tiedemann, definitely for a different team. But Ricky Tiedemann, this is this guy that went overlooked by a ton of teams in the 2021 draft, third overall. Out of Golden West Junior College, this dude went very much overlooked. 20 years old in AA, 5-4 with a 2.26 ERA. I mean, every level he's went to is just proven to be too easy for him. 17 games this year, 75 innings, 27 walks compared to 115 strikeouts, and a batting average of 154. This dude's been insane. I mean, he started in low A Dunedin. 6 games there, they bumped him up to high A. He was great there. And, he struggled maybe a little bit more, you could say, at AA. I think that's where he'll probably finish this year. But the dude's been insane. I mean, you make it through 3 levels in a season, you know that you're doing something right. Next up is the guy that could make his major league debut, and that's Tristan Casas of the Boston Red Sox. Casas can play first base, third base. It seems like that they are going to promote him pretty soon. He's having a hot stretch right now, which if you're a big prospect person and you're looking for a time when a prospect's going to be promoted and you know that they're doing pretty well and that they definitely could be in for a promotion, definitely look to when they're hot. If they're hot, they hit maybe 2 home runs in a game or are getting a lot of hits, getting on base a lot. Something that is really positive, then they're probably going to get promoted, especially a guy like Tristan Casas, who's been pretty good these last few games. 263 this year, 10 home runs, 34 RBIs, walks a ton, on-base machine, really good player. Next up is going to be at number 31, Termarr Johnson, the second baseman for the Pittsburgh Pirates. Termarr Johnson had started off a bit slow. In the rookie league, I simply don't care. I mean, he got a big signing bonus, and people tend to think that he's the best high school hitting prospect that they've seen maybe ever, or at least this decade in the last 10 years. Termarr Johnson is a great hitter. I don't care. But the thing is, you do want to see him hitting because he doesn't provide a lot in the field. So if he's not hitting, then that's a bit of a problem. Well, a lot of a problem because he doesn't really play the field that well. Next up at number 32, George Valera of the Cleveland Guardians. George Valera is just another guy that's been really good and been a big product of what the Guardians do developing-wise. I mean, there's a few teams around baseball that really do the developing thing well, but the Guardians do it really well. He's Now up in AAA Columbus after being promoted. This year, 262 average with 17 home runs and 63 RBIs. This is a guy, they've developed him from very little, I'll say that, and they've done a great job doing it. Next up at number 33 is James Wood, another piece of that Washington Nationals trade that ended up with Juan Soto on the San Diego Padres, and he was the second-round pick out of IMG Academy. And the dude's been really good. I'm surprised he didn't get a bump up to high A. But, dude has been really good. 11 home runs, 57 RBIs, walks a ton, gets on base a ton. 316 batting average. If you don't say that James Wood was overlooked by a lot of teams, you could say when you look back on the draft and you're redrafting last year's draft, you could say that he's the top 5 pick, realistically. Next up at number 34, Gavin Williams, the starting pitcher from the Cleveland Guardians. This is another player that, wasn't too, under the radar at all because he was drafted 23rd overall out of East Carolina University. The dude had the stuff. He has great stuff, and the Guardians know how to develop players, and I think they're going to do a lot with Chase Lawlar, who they drafted in the first round out of James Madison. He's 4-1 with a 1.49 ERA, 20 games started, 90 innings. The dude's been pretty insane this year. He got the bump up to Double-A after definitely deserved it. 117 strikeouts compared to 33 walks. Dude throws gas, and Gavin Williams, I would probably promote him to AAA if I'm in charge of the Guardians. Next up at number 35, Shea Langeliers of the Oakland Athletics. Shea Langeliers just got the promotion to the major leagues, so he won't be on anybody's list very much longer, but Shea Langeliers has dominated ever since being in the minor leagues. Of course, the Braves traded him to the Athletics as part of the big Matt Olson trade, where he was drafted 9th overall by Atlanta in 2019 out of Baylor. This year in the minor leagues, 19 home runs, 56 RBIs, and a 283 batting average. Hit his first home run the other night. Shea Langeliers is going to have a very good major league career. Next up at number 36, people might see this a little aggressive, but it's Vaughn Grissom of the Atlanta Braves. And I know you're going to say, I'm biased because I'm a Braves fan. I don't really think so. Vaughn Grissom has proven to be, one of the best prospects in baseball. When you have a season like he did in high Rome, and he had an awesome year, and he only had 15 games in Double-A before he was just promoted straight to the majors from Double-A. And now, while it may be hard to find Vaughn Grissom playing time when Ozzie Albies is back, he's been sensational. He's been the best he could be since he's been up in his 35 at-bats. They drafted him in the 11th round, and the Braves haven't been, the greatest with developing minor league talent, but they can develop some people, and he's one of them. And it's a good sight to see. Next up at number 37, Jason Dominguez, an outfield prospect for the New York Yankees. Jason Dominguez has started to show why he was so highly touted coming out of the Dominican Republic. He's shown why he was such why he was just such a great talent. The dude's 19 years old, and that was what I was trying to tell people last year when he was struggling a bit, is that the dude was 18 in low A ball. That's pretty unnormal. This year, 12 home runs, 50 RBIs, and a 268 batting average. Just got bumped up to high A Hudson Valley. He's been pretty good there. You definitely can't complain about how he's been. Jason Dominguez, really, really good. Next up is Bobby Miller, the starting pitcher for the Dodgers. The Dodgers are another team that does developing really well. 29th overall pick out of Louisville in 2020. The dude's been really, really good, really, really solid. And, he's not too young as these other guys, but 28 or 23 years of age, and 6-6 this year with a 4.45 ERA. Now, while I'll say he hasn't been great, he's been solid, and I still think that there's a lot of upside with him, and that's why he's at number 38. Next up is the shortstop Mason Wynn of the St. Louis Cardinals. Mason Wynn has been a guy that's really started to, jump up this year, and he's another guy that kind of went pretty much overlooked in the 2020 draft out of Kingwood High School in Texas. the thing was, he's always been a good contact hitter. It's just his bat-to-ball skills are really good. It's just that he's not really been the greatest power-wise, but he's starting to get better power-wise, a lot better this year. 290 batting average with 11 home runs and 52 RBIs this year. Mason Wynn is really a very good player. Next up at number 40 is Evan Carter, the outfielder for the Texas Rangers. Evan Carter, it was questionable to some people why he started in high A this year. But it's not very questionable anymore considering how good he's been. 288 batting average, 11 home runs, and 65 RBIs. Now, I find him kind of similar to another player in the Texas Rangers organization, Aaron Zavala, who they drafted second overall just a year after they drafted him second overall. And he's out of Tennessee as well. And he's 19 years old in high A and doing this. He's a better version of Aaron Zavala and does it at 3 years of age younger. I mean, it's a really impressive thing what he's doing. And, if you are if you're a card person, you might want to buy some Evan Carter cards before they go ridiculously out of budget for anybody. But next up's Harry Ford, who was a guy in the draft that we all kind of looked at as just kind of this utility player that we didn't know offensively, we didn't know really defensively. There were some questions to be had. But with Harry Ford, he's been really good this year. He was drafted 12th overall in North Cobb High School. 8 home runs, 55 RBIs this year. Walks a ton. He's got a really advanced approach for negative 2.1 as far as the age difference. He's probably the best Seattle Mariners prospect after the trades. Really something to be excited about with Harry Ford. Next up at number 42 is Elijah Green, the outfielder from IMG Academy. He was drafted 5th overall by the Washington Nationals. And he's been in rookie ball, and he's been doing pretty good, I have to say. This is a guy that probably is going to start in low A next year. This is a dude that's impressive. And, what you really have to do with him is you have to get the strikeouts down. And if you can somehow get the strikeouts down, this is going to be one of the better picks of that draft. Next up at number 43, Colton Cowser of the Baltimore Orioles. Colton Cowser has been really fantastic. Well, not fantastic, but he's been pretty decent. The thing is, he was drafted out of Sam Houston State this year. 281 average, 13 home runs, 49 RBIs. I don't want to say that I was totally right with this pick because I don't think it's a 5th overall type pick, but I think he's been good. Next up at number 44, Michael Busch. Michael Busch has been really good for the Dodgers. Just another one of those guys that has came through with their development. Him and Miguel Vargas, who's the next guy on this list, are just very similar, really similar players, and they're both middle infield type players, and they're both dominating. There's nothing about it. It's just the Dodgers need to promote him. That's what needs to happen. Next up at number 46 is Henry Davis, the catcher from the Pittsburgh Pirates. This dude's kind of dropping down boards a little bit, and of course, Harry Ford's higher than him in this list. And Henry Davis has just not been that great. He's been injury prone this year. There's a lot of things that's just not too positive with Henry Davis, and I do think they've rushed him a little bit. I think that they maybe are doing him a bit of a disservice by how quick they promoted him to Double-A. The same thing with when we talk about disservices is Jack Leiter for the Texas Rangers. Jack Leiter has definitely not been done anything good by the Rangers besides drafting him and giving him a bunch of money because Jack Leiter was thrown right into Double-A. Personally, if I'm with the Rangers, I probably would have started him at high A. Then, if he performed well there, I probably would have at least made him spend half the year there unless he was just absolutely forcing my hand to be promoted to Double-A. Then I might have promoted him to Double-A if he was doing well, kind of similar to what they did with Owen White this year, who obviously had a really good year with the Arizona Fall League. But I think what they should have done is they should have started him in high A and then maybe promoted him to Double-A if he did well. But they didn't do that. They definitely have screwed up his development. They can't afford to do that with Kumar as well, and they've already had a pretty bad history of developing pitchers, so it wasn't a very smart idea on their part. I'll have to say that. Next up is Cade Cavalli of the Washington Nationals. Cade Cavalli's been a guy, he was drafted like 28th overall out of Oklahoma, and the dude's been really, really good. This year, 5-4 with a 3.82 ERA. I really think that this dude has ace potential. Not everybody has ace potential, but this dude might have the most of ace potential that there is. He's been really good ever since he's came into the minor leagues. And he's already in AAA. If I'm the Nationals, I'd probably let him have a shot in the majors because they have nothing else good going for them.